I have been waiting to do this podcast for weeks. Oh, and I'm so excited and happy to be sharing all the information about the Plitvice Lakes National Park with you. Imagine stepping into a fairy tale where there are 16 crystal clear turquoise lakes cascading into each other, surrounded by lush green forests and over 90 breathtaking waterfalls. Welcome to Plitvice Lakes National Park in Croatia. As one of the most stunning natural wonders in the world, this UNESCO World Heritage Site offers an unforgettable experience for nature lovers and adventure seekers alike. We take you wandering along the wooden walkways, exploring tranquil lakes and marvelling at the park's tallest waterfall, Veliki Slap. Stay listening to the end of the podcast to learn all the information on which entrances and tracks to take for the best experience, where to stay, and some other great helpful information like how to visit the park for half price. So please enjoy episode 111. And as usual, I have a one-page summary with all the links and stunning pictures of the lakes and waterfalls and the secret viewpoint that we tell you about. And you can see them by clicking on the link to episode 111 in the podcast player you are listening on now. Hello, how are you doing today?
Hola, Leonita.
So welcome back to the Beach Travel Wine podcast, everybody. And as I said in the intro, we are taking you to somewhere so spectacular today. So you want to stay listening. But we are going to break it down into some really easy follow information about visiting the Plitvice Lakes National Park, aren't we? But
Are we?
yeah, but first we want to tell you about a little spot that we stopped at on our journey there. It sort of set us up for our expectations, I guess, didn't it?
Oh, you mean hokey pokey?
Hokey Rastoki. I had to rhyme it with something so I could pronounce it properly. That's right. So it was the Hokey Pokey Rastoki. So we left Zagreb, yes, and headed to Plitvice Lakes via Rastoki, and it's a gorgeous little village in a little town, a little area very close to Plitvice. So it has a lot of water and waterfalls and little houses and things, doesn't it? But yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about it before we move on to Plitvice?
Well, it has a huge population
Yes.
of about 50 people. It's a village located in the town of Slunj,
Yes.
known for the Slunjica River, which flows into the Corona River at Rastoki. Rastoki is known for its water-powered mechanical mills, a fairy tale village with cascading waterfalls and river top houses.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And I'm sort of looking at a picture of it here. You can see the two rivers coming in, and then like right down through the middle are these cascades. There's like a lake, a beautiful, peaceful lake. And it's not just sort of through the land. This water flows under the houses, under the restaurants, doesn't it? Like around the gardens. And one of my kids said to me, it looks like Hobbit Town. It's just that even the buildings are rustic. It's just so gorgeous.
Well, it's so unique. It's and it's probably actually, if you don't mind, I'll give the description of how it all works.
Well, okay, you're talking about the colour of the water and how the water cascades.
Well, basically how it's formed.
Okay, so you're talking about the waterfalls, how they're formed from the river. So yeah, so it's not just like rock formation that the water goes down. These little cascades and waterfalls all through this little town have been built up over years from a process. Yeah,
centuries, basically.
Yeah, that. And then what I'm going to say to people is go and have a look at the Beach Travel Wine website. This is episode 111, and there'll be a link in the podcast player you're listening on now, and you'll see Rastoki, and what we mean by the lake and then the cascades through the town. So yeah, give us the lowdown, please.
Okay, the lowdown of how it's all formed. The waterfalls here have been formed in exactly the same way as the nearby Plitvice Lakes.
Right, yeah, that's good to know.
Okay, with deposits of carbonated minerals in the water building up layers of travertine.
Mm.
The Slunjica River actually begins life at the Malakabela range as the Jesnica, which then quickly disappears underground. After about 6 kilometres, resurfaces again 20 kilometres away just to the south of Slunj, and now known as Slunjica. While underground, the flowing water dissolves high concentrations of calcium carbonates from the limestone. Back on the surface, this interacts with plant life such as moss, algae and bacteria, and sediment gradually accumulates as travertine barrier at about the rate of 1 centimetre a year.
Okay.
The process creates the new rock down which the river cascades. At Rastoki, as the Slunjica falls into the corona, the travertine barrier is about 500 metres wide by 200 metres long, creating 23 waterfalls which drop about 10 to 20 metres in the corona.
So that's what you see in Rastokia, is that 200 metres and the waterfalls. And
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the river starts in a mountain range, it flows along, then it goes underground.
Yep.
And while it's underground, it dissolves all this stuff. It comes back up, and all the stuff that's in the water now from being underground forms with the stuff that's on land.
the moss and the algae and all that sort of
and
stuff.
forms these waterfalls.
Just barriers, which then the water just flows over.
Yeah.
And look, it's amazing to see, because you walk along the paths.
Yes.
And it's almost like you're right on top of the water.
Well, there's actually a path that they've built, so you can walk all around the little village, right? And then you can actually go in. There's like a little tourist area that you pay a few euro to go in, and that way you get the best sort of view. You probably don't need to stay in Rastoki. However, you definitely want to stop there and walk around the whole village. And I had the best pistachio cheesecake I've ever had in my life. We had an hour there, I think, maybe an hour and a half, and I would have liked a bit longer because we only sort of discovered the walking track. I don't know how we missed it. And it crosses the river in a couple of places. There's a couple of bridge, and there's an old mill that you can see where the water's flowing down. They used to grind like a lot of flour and grain there as well. So it's just a stunning little place, isn't it?
Yeah. Now you're gonna ask, which is what we asked too. How does it work with the houses? Why the houses are able
how
to...
they're not washed away or rotted away or whatever.
So the ground floor of the houses are made out of travertine, right? Which is what gets built up in the river. So they obviously somehow get that out, and that's the floors. The upper levels are wooden constructions in such a way as to be easily moved and rebuilt if necessary.
Okay.
At the centre of Rastoki is a visitor centre.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yep.
Based on 4 small islands connected by wooden bridges.
Yeah, and you wander all around there. It's really pretty. Yes.
There are displays of the workings inside and outside the mill.
Yep.
A museum, a trout pond, a beautiful grassy meadow while you can sit and enjoy the views of the waterfall.
And we did that. And there's also a cave, like you could walk down this spiral staircase and go into a little cave, but I didn't feel like doing that. So definitely visit Rastoki on your way to Plitvice Lakes, yeah?
Yeah, look, I was stunned.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunned. It was so beautiful. And we were lucky again. We copped a beautiful morning. It was just glorious.
It was really nice. All right, let's move on, shall we? Because I'm excited.
Okay.
Once again.
I'll let you go.
Look, if you Google or, type in anything about going to Croatia, one of the main things that comes up are pictures of Plitvice Lakes. And I think if you haven't heard of Plitvice Lakes, stop now, go and Google it, because it is just the most stunning thing you will ever see. I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And we're going to, talk about the national park in a minute. And I was so excited to be going. And Lyle, thankfully, suggested, rather than do a day trip to Plitvice from Zagreb, why don't we stay there a couple of nights so we can really enjoy it? And so that was one of his better ideas, and so we did that, and we booked some accommodation, in the national park. And I'm so glad we did that, because it just made our whole experience at Plitvice Lakes so much better, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now, how big is Plitvice Lakes?
I'm glad you asked me that. 200.
And that wasn't rehearsed at all.
No, it absolutely wasn't. But I was just, when Leo was talking, I thought, I better see how big it is.
Yeah.
It's 295 square kilometres. It's a forest reserve in central Croatia. It's known for a chain of 16 terraced lakes joined by waterfalls, and extends into the limestone canyon. Walkways and hiking trails wind around the water, and the electric boat links 12 upper lakes to the 4 lower lakes.
Okay, so we're talking. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. We stayed at a beautiful resort called
Fenomen
Plitvice Resort. And when we got there, they said to us, if you walk down the road 500 metres, you'll get a nice vantage point of the main waterfall.
Plitvice Lakes.
Yeah, so slap is the Croatian word for waterfall. And so we dumped our stuff and we headed down the road and we got to this little road and there's a bridge and I'm like, well, where's this spot? There's no walking track. There's nothing sort of signposted. And then I just sort of looked behind a little bush near the bridge and I thought, oh, there is a little sort of track here hidden. So we followed that probably, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 metres and we were the only ones there. And all of a sudden we come to this viewpoint and I was speechless. I was like, that is Plitvice Lakes. It's the money shot. It's the photo that you get of the big waterfall and the blue lake and all the green lush mountains going into it. And we were standing there looking at it. We didn't have to go into the park. And I've got a photo of that in the show notes at beachtravelwine.com. And you'll see that, you know, that picture that I took and from that secret spot. And it is secret because there's no car parks and there's no one else going
There's
there.
no signage.
No. So it was, I've just felt.
It's just at the end of the road from where we were staying.
If we didn't go into Plitvice Lakes then, I'll be like, well, I've seen it. Like, that was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, except that that's the highest waterfall in Croatia.
Yeah.
And it's 78 metres high.
Yeah.
And it's not like you see a lot of waterfalls where they're quite narrow. This thing is wide. Like, what would you say? Maybe 500 metres wide?
Yeah, I don't know. There's just water everywhere. So
it's just incredible.
I don't know how they choose which waterfalls is a waterfall because they all sort of blend into one another. So that was our introduction to Plitvice Lakes. And so the next morning, I bought our tickets online. So here's the thing: you've got to buy tickets to go into the park, right? First tip for you: the prices of the tickets basically double from the 1st of June. Now, we were there on the 29th of May, and I think we paid €23 each. And 2 days after we left, they go up to over €40 each. Okay, so the high season, they're €40. And so it's nearly half price we got them for. And even over winter, they're even cheaper, like €10. So it's not a huge saving, but we had no idea. So I bought the tickets online and I'm going to put a link to the official website where you can buy those tickets because you just buy them online. You can buy them at the entrances, but I recommend getting them online. And if you can, print them out before you go. Otherwise, you have them on your phone. So through the shoulder season and the high season, the park opens at 7 a.m. and in winter it's 8 a.m. All right, so you can go early. So we got the 7 a.m. time slot, and because you hear about the Plitvice Lakes being so busy, they get day trips from all over, from Zadar, from Zagreb, you know, even from Split. People hop on a coach, and most people go there for the day trip. So from about 9 to 10 o'clock, it just gets crazy busy with visitors. And I wanted to avoid that. You know, I wanted to be able to get some photos and just enjoy not being pushed and shoved and, you know, trying to sort of deal with the narrow walkways and the crowd. So I got the 7 a.m. one and we needed a taxi ride to get there. So the people we stay with, they got us a taxi. Yep. And he picked us up at 6:30 or 6:45 and we were at the park lined up, ready to go in at 7 a.m. And
you're not going to believe this. We were actually first there, which is so surprising for Leanne.
I was so excited. All the photos you see, people are trying to take photos of hundreds of people's heads. And we walked through, well, me, Lyle behind me, I walked through the gate first, the first person into Plitvice Lakes that day. And we stayed in front of the crowd, people for nearly the whole way, like that first lower lakes, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So basically I had free range of photos. We had free ranges of views. Eventually we had two couples come up to us and we chatted to them and they were both Aussies. They'd done the same thing. Couples, They'd bought their tickets and arrived early. And I just can't emphasize how much you should do that, how important that is, or to avoid the crowds. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think what you've got to understand is that the walkways are probably, I reckon, be maximum maybe 1.5 metres.
Oh, if that.
So
some of them are only a metre.
So it's actually quite narrow, and there's no handrailing.
No.
Right. So
Lyle's doing some actions for you, just so you know.
Yeah, there's no handrailing, and the actual boardwalk, right, is actually quite close to the water.
Right on the water.
Basically on the water. So if you're walking along and you've got people in front of you and they're taking photos, there's no way to walk around them.
No, you have to
just have to wait.
wait.
So
and also the surface, some of the wooden, it's planks, so it's not flat and smooth. So you to be not having to dodge people, for me with my dicky hip, was like a real bonus as well. Yeah. So
yeah.
so, all right. So we talked about the prices. Let me tell you a bit about, because I was so confused. There's 4 main tracks. Like, there are other tracks you can take, and if you're hikers and want to do like long walks, you need to Google that. We're just going to talk about the standard.
There's actually 8 tracks.
Okay, but the 4 standard ones that most people do, if you're just going to follow the most popular ones, right?
Yeah.
So there's A, B, C, and E. I don't know what happened to D. So they're the 4 ones, and there's also 2 entrances, and so it's just so confusing. Like, do I do this track and which entrance? So,
well, it's only until you get there.
yeah, until you get there. Because we know now, I'm going to tell the people the best thing to do. So definitely the best entrance to go in, if you want to see the whole thing, is entrance 1, right? That's sort of the main entrance. Entrance 2 is closer to some of the hotels that are right in the park. That's where you can do the upper lakes. Whereas entrance 1 is where the main walk starts. So track A, that is just the lower lakes and no boat ride. So it's about, like they say, about 2 to 3 hours, right? And you just do like a loop around the bottom lakes and come back. And if that's all you saw, you'd go home a happy person, yeah?
Sure.
Because it's just, yeah, we've got some friends that only did the lower lakes. And if you're short on time too, 2 to 3 hours. And these time frames are very, very generous.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because the one that they suggested for us, we certainly did it in the time allowed. Entrance 1, track B. Now, these tracks, they've got a sign, and everywhere you go, they'll point. So track A goes this way, track B goes this way. So it's really easy to follow. So don't worry about that. You will definitely not have a problem, finding your way. So track B is, basically the same as track A, the lower lakes, but it also includes a boat ride. Okay, now we did the boat ride too. So the boat ride actually takes you across to the beautiful still lake, and it's electric boat, so it's not that fast, and you're just gliding through the water, and you can get off there, and then you catch, like, there's a little train that you catch back to the main entrance. So it's the same as A, it's the lower lakes, but you get that boat ride as well, yeah. And that's what they say, that's track B, and that's 3 to 4 hours.
And that was, and the boat ride and the shuttle back,
is all
included in the price.
Now, I'll tell you about I'll tell you about track C in a minute, because that's the one we did. But let's go to track E now. Now, track E starts from entrance 2, and it basically does just the upper lakes. Like, if you went back for a second day and you wanted to do that, that's probably a good thing to do. Now, one of the other reasons to use entrance 1 is because the whole time you're walking towards the waterfalls. So you're actually seeing them as you're approaching them. Whereas if you use entrance 2, you're walking away from them. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely I recommend entrance 1.
Yeah.
Now, the track that we did, and the one I highly recommend, because, as I said, if you've just seen the lower lakes, and they're the sort of the standard pictures with the beautiful wooden curving boardwalk, which I've got so many photos, honestly, of that. Go and check it out. Or even go to Beach Travel Wine on Instagram and go up the top to the story highlights and go to Plitvice Lakes, because I've videoed this the whole day. It was just amazing. Track C does the upper and lower lakes. So if you've just seen the lower lakes, you'd be as happy as anything. But we actually thought the upper lakes were even more impressive, didn't we?
Yeah, like, to be fair, people that we spoke to prior to doing this, even at the hotel especially, they all say track C.
Yeah, that's the most popular one.
Yeah, and part of that is as Leanne said, as on track C, you're just looking directly at the waterfalls the whole way you walk around.
Yeah, so it's 8Ks. I was a bit worried that, like, looking at the tracks, could I manage it? It was easy, track C. And they say 4 to 5 hours. We, as I said before, we were in the park at 7:01.
Well, they're before that, actually.
Yeah, and the taxi driver said, text me when you get back and I'll come and get you. And I think we got back at about 11,
Yeah.
and he was waiting for us. Now, that included a wait for the boat. So the first part of the walk, I know I'm being all technical, but I just want to get this out and then we can talk about how beautiful it is. The first part of the walk is that lower lakes. We're on our own. You're walking across this expanse of the most beautiful blue that you've ever seen. The lake to your left, and then you look to the right and you've got mossy green stones with water coming down. And then you sort of go around a corner a bit and you're still on this walkway, and all of a sudden there's water rushing under your feet, and you've got rocks like a cliff coming up the side, and there's sort of caves you can see in the rocks, and then you go up a bit higher and there's another lake. So every level, there's like 16, I think, levels you go up.
There's 16 lakes basically,
and
and
so
and obviously they flow down into
and so some are huge and some are smaller, and that's the 16 named lakes. Honestly, there's so many others that obviously they can't. They're not that big and they're not named, but so that's 16 levels that you sort of are going up. So you're wandering around in awe. Don't, if you're frightened of water, you're going to be upset, aren't you? Because there's just water rushing everywhere. And then you get around the next little bend and it's calm. And there's just like this beautiful still piece of water, and the water is so clear. You're looking down and you can see the bottom and the rocks, and there's trees that have fallen over in there, and there's moss everywhere. And then the next thing, you look up and there's this giant waterfall in front of you that's probably 50 metres wide, and there's water cascading down in all different areas, some on grassy, mossy bits, some on rock bits, and you can't, I can't describe it. You just have to go. It is so bloody beautiful.
Well, the other side of it too is that the bottom, the surface of the lakes, they're limestone. So again, you've got incredible blue colour, and it's every lake.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
And it's still natural. Like they haven't, there's trees that have fallen over. There's parts that you've got to sort of step over some tree branches and stuff. It's not like this manicured park. It's just so naturally beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took us probably an hour to walk that first sort of bottom lake one to where you catch the boat, right? And because we were so early in the park,
the boat ride hadn't started.
We had to wait because the boat rides don't start to 8:30 a.m. So, but that was okay because we had all that time to ourselves, and as we were sitting waiting in the sun for the boat ride to start, more people were coming in.
I couldn't actually think of a place I'd rather be and have to wait for a boat.
Yeah.
Is that glorious?
So it's like there's a cafe there and a little coffee shop and amenities and lots of outdoor tables. So it's a beautiful spot right on the lake.
Yeah,
now,
and
you used to be able to swim, but you can't now.
Swimming in the lakes was banned in 2006.
Yeah. So we're sitting there waiting, enjoying the sunshine, and so you've just walked through all these beautiful wooden walkways and the waterfalls, and all of a sudden you come across this massive lake. Like, it's so beautiful. It's the biggest lake in the park, and once again I've got some beautiful photos of that, and the boats on there as well. So really beautiful. If this is where you're finishing track A, you turn around and there's a track that you head back. Okay. If you're going on track B, you hop on the boat here, and if you're doing track C, you hop on the boat as well. So I think they get about 100 on the boat. And so you line up for the boat, and it's pretty relaxed. They go every half hour, I think, or So if you miss that one, you just got to sit in the sun and wait a bit longer.
It's really chilled, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's about a half-hour boat ride. It's not that far, but it's you don't care. You're just in heaven, gliding on this still water. You can see to the bottom. You can see where you're going to go to the upper lakes. You can see, oh my gosh, we've got to climb up there. And there's 2 stops on the boat trip. So the first one is where you get off to go to the upper lakes, so track C. And if you want to go back now, you can stay on, because we thought, let's go on the boat and see what we think. And we definitely wanted to stay. Definitely want to go to the upper lakes. But if you decide you don't want to do that, you go across to the second stop and hop off there and get the shuttle back. So that's track B finished. But if you're like us and probably 3/4 of the boat, because you're not going early to miss it all, you get off at that first stop and you follow the track through the upper lakes. Now, the upper lakes is quite spread out, and even though there are a few, like say there are 100 people on the boat, 70 of them we're all in this group of 70. Honestly, within 5 minutes, everyone's spread out, haven't they?
Yeah, there's sort of People just disperse.
Yeah, they do. And because this was the first boat of the day, there was no one else up in front of us either. So it's a little bit more rustic up there, you'd have to say. We should have counted, but you just went up lake after lake after lake, and each time you walk around the corner, you were just like, oh my gosh, look at that, and the water's rushing under your feet. And then you come to probably my favourite, and I'll definitely put a photo of this, or it's already on the website. It's called the horseshoe. So it's this big sort of horseshoe shape, and that's where we did come across a few people taking photos, because you just couldn't miss that. And the whole horseshoe is covered in this green, the green moss and the plant life, and there's probably 50 different places that water's coming down into a lake at the bottom, and we're just standing there on this beautiful wooden walkway right in front of that. In fact, you could feel the spray of the the water. That was probably one of my favorites. Yeah, you wonder if it's ever going to end. Like, how much more of this beauty is there to see? Like, you have no idea, just looking at pictures and reading about it, what you're actually going to be seeing. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it's and you got to take into account the lakes are only 2% of that national park,
Right.
in area. So look, it's hard to describe how magnificent it is, and I think it's probably one of the it's probably is, from a natural point of view, it is probably the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's you don't want to say the best, because there's some other beautiful things we've seen, and we've got some favourites as well. But you just have to. Like, if anyone can tell me somewhere more beautiful than Plitvice Lakes National Park, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, I really would.
Yeah.
And and if there is, I'm going there, because I just can't see there'd be anything more beautiful than this. And do you know what? The feeling that, like, the ecstatic feeling I had going into the park first, that just made my whole day. But I don't know, like, the feeling of sheer delight, happiness, just joy of seeing this. It's hard. I just can't really describe it, but it's a memory that will be with me forever. And there was not a time in this day that I just didn't have a smile on my face and just was so freaking happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other side of it too, just to make people aware that we're saying you're walking up all the time. Well, you are, but I think because you're wide-eyed and you don't even realise there's no energy going up the hills, because all you're doing is looking around, and next thing you know, you're at another lake. So it's not strenuous.
No, and when you go up, then there's that flat bit to walk around the lake, and then you might go up a little bit more. And one of the things that we met some people, chatting to some people sitting next to us on the boat, and I thought this was a good idea. And like, if I went back, I would do this. They bought a 2-day pass. So I think if you I think if it's €20 to get in, €23. I think it was only, say, 40 for two days, right? So it's not double. And they were going back, and they went in early the second day, and they said, we feel no pressure to take photos or do any of that. We just, we're sure we missed stuff, and we're just going to wander and enjoy, and
just embrace it.
Yeah, and I think I would do that. I would definitely recommend going twice, because you probably would see a whole different lot of stuff, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And also the different seasons, just chucking this in. Like, we went in spring, almost summer. I mean, obviously that's when there's the most water and it's lush and green. Autumn, if you look at photos of Plitvice in autumn, just the colour, because all those trees are deciduous, so they're all turning bright oranges and reds and yellows and stuff. It's nice. And even in winter, it gets snow. I couldn't imagine walking on the boardwalks with snow, but it's just, every season it's just stunning for sure. So we're walking around the upper lakes, and we're trying to take our time. Like, we're not in a rush at all. And then we come to, you sort of think, are we at the top? Are we at the top? But wherever you are, you can hear water or see water, can't you?
Yeah.
And there was one sort of spot that you sort of head just into the forest a bit, just back from the lake, and you just close your eyes and you can hear the birds. Obviously, I'd live there if I was a bird. They're just so happy. And then we saw a woodpecker.
Yeah, we did.
Like
pecking.
He was pecking, like, and you could sort of just hear, and it was so loud. Oh, that was hilarious. So we stopped and watched the woodpecker for a while. But the water, you can just the sound of the water just is in your ears. It's just really so beautiful. Then you come out to this spot, and I think, God, it's hard to say there was a favourite. You come out at this spot, and do you remember this? It's sort of like you look to the left, and there's like a whole mountain or a hill sort of going down, and there's a lake at the bottom. And it doesn't look like a waterfall, but there's just little bits of water. I think you actually said to me, I think that's my favourite. Like the whole side of the mountain just seemed to be water coming up out over rocks, and there's another spot that water was coming out, and it's just making its way down. Just not huge waterfalls, but it was mossy, and it was that light green.
And you had that like creeper
Yeah,
from the top of the mountains, basically going down the whole length of the waterfall. And yeah, it was pretty special for sure.
it was. Yeah, it was really beautiful. And then, then you sort of come to the top. It's all a bit disappointing. I mean, you could turn around and go back, I guess. But at the top of the lakes, there's another cafe, more amenities, and that's where you meet the shuttle.
Yeah.
And we did that. We didn't have to wait long. They go regularly as well. And there's a couple of stops on that shuttle. They'll drop you back at entrance 2, or you can go with us, and it drops you not right at entrance 1. It drops you at another sort of cafe. And this is where the crowds are gathering. And so I said to Lyle, let's keep moving, because we've got probably another maybe a kilometre, maybe not that far to walk from there back to entrance 1. But that part of the walk, and once again, if you like, you need to do the whole thing to see this, that was spectacular, because that you're up high. So you've walked all the way down and through the lakes, you've come right up to the top, and the train's brought you back around, and you're still up high. So you are now looking down over that first part of Plitvice Lake, and that's the pictures that most people see. So you've got the walkways. You can see the walkways between the lakes, going across the lakes. You can see people walking on there, and the colour of the water. That aerial view for me is one of my favourites. So I've got some perfect photos of that too, even if I say so myself. We just wandered back nice and slowly along there, staying ahead of the crowds. And once we got back to the exit there, or entrance 1, boy, it was a bit different to when we went in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty busy.
Yeah. And so I just felt so good about going early, and just so happy that we did that. I'd been watching the weather, like on the weather app, for ages, because I'm like, we've got one full day in Plitvice. Please don't rain. Please don't rain. And
what did I say?
it won't rain. Lucky lot.
Yeah.
But they also forecast storms, and it did storm that afternoon. So yeah, I was thinking, imagine being there now at 3:00 in the afternoon, and the storm. It would have been terrible. We walked back. We got a coffee, I think, and I text the taxi driver, and he's standing there waiting for us. So
He was there.
now they say that this walk takes 4 to 5 hours, and we did have to wait for the boat for a little while. We didn't have to wait for the shuttle bus or anything, and because we had no people in front of us, I think we did it a bit quicker. I imagine the 4 to 5 hours would be if you were in
the middle of the crowd.
So we definitely did it in 4, and that was not strenuous at all. I could have done it again.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't tired at all.
No, it was just the most wonderful experience. Like, it was, and so we went home on a bit of a high, didn't we? A buzzing,
Sure.
just like, well, now what? So we actually went down there. We're on the place where we stayed, our accommodation. They have a river that runs through, a little creek that runs through their property, and a little lookout spot. So we went down there and did a live on Facebook, didn't we? Just because we wanted to share that buzz that we had. Well, just after we'd been there. So hopefully we've answered your questions about the track. So just in summary, let's do this. Entrance 1 is definitely the best entrance.
Yeah, and both entrances have car parks. There's an additional fee for the car park.
Yeah,
but there
plenty
are
car parking. There's actually like a separate car park for buses, and there's bridges that go over the main road and stuff, because they just get day trip after day trip. So if you can, stay at least 1 night, 2 nights if possible. Entrance 1, and try and do track C. That would definitely be my recommendation, and go as early as possible and buy your tickets online.
Pre-book your tickets, and they do have cancellations up to 24 hours before. They do say that
Yes.
There's wheelchair access.
Yes.
Look, I think you probably can come in, well, you would be able to come into the entrances, but you obviously wouldn't be able to do
No, you get the
the
views though.
boardwalk.
They've
Yeah,
got
you get the views, but you
Mm.
wouldn't be able to do the.
no. It's not suitable for little kids, I wouldn't think.
No.
I'd be terrified if I was on there with some of my grandchildren, not even probably the bigger ones. But there have been people fall off and die in the lakes, over the years, a couple.
Yeah, but
and-
I think that's more from the cliffs. They say a lot of that is people taking selfies.
Yeah, sure.
And they just step back one step too far.
Yeah, because it's not. It certainly wouldn't fit safety standards in a lot of countries. But thank goodness, because it would ruin it if you had all that sort of railing and all that safety stuff. So you definitely need to wear comfortable shoes. Don't worry about fashion. I saw people with all their nice outfits on for Instagram and stuff. That's going to be hard work. You need good shoes. Don't carry too much stuff. There's little stops along the way. You can get water, coffee, toilets, all that sort of
and
stuff.
all the amenities are really well sign written. So
yeah.
And I think just going back to the kids, I think doing it, the younger kids, I don't think they'd enjoy it that much anyway. I mean, for 10 minutes they'd probably like it, but for 4 hours, and I think from the parents' point of view, you're going to miss so much.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be worried about the kids.
Yeah. So it's not suitable for kids. Definitely no prams or wheelchair is available. You can do guided walks if you want someone to talk to you about the names of the waterfalls and all that sort of stuff. And I'll put a link to one of those guided tours in the show notes too, because I think some people would be interested in doing that. I mean, I would maybe do that the next time.
The day tours, they come from Split, Trogir, Zagreb, Dubrovnik. You would think Dubrovnik.
It's a long day trip.
It'd be a long way. And one of the closest main towns is Zadar, which we actually went to. And now they're saying Zagreb's about 130k, 2 hours. Split is 246k. They're saying 2.5 hours. Now, what you're going to understand is that the roads, they're not highways. They're narrow dual carriageways. So it's going to take longer to get there than if
you're going to spend in the park. But if that's all you can do, then don't miss out. You are going to deal with a long day and crowds.
Now the national park borders Bosnia.
Yep. Okay.
So I think the closest town is Biac.
Yep. Okay.
In Bosnia, because it is in a national park, there are bears, wolves, lynxes, and rare bird species. Now,
like woodpeckers.
For us, they're rare. Maybe not over there, but so.
You are in a natural environment. We didn't. Obviously,
we didn't see any, and
they'd be scared off. There's just hundreds of people. They do sell out though. If you don't get your ticket and it's a too busy day, you can't get in. I don't know what the number is, but they do limit it. So just buy it ahead of time online, and you can't miss out. And if
the other side of it too is if you're traveling. Say you're going from, say, Split to Zagreb or Zagreb to Split, and you're going to put this in as part of the trip, like if you say you catch public transport, you can leave the luggage at the entrances.
Okay.
We've got lockers. Free.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so just be aware of that as well.
Okay. And there are taxis. Like if, like us, you don't have a car, the hotel organised taxis for us. Now, we paid €30 each way, and I'd pay that again in a heartbeat to go. But we were a little way out, but that was our choice too. So there are hotels and accommodation closer to entrance 1, and if you've got your own car, it doesn't really matter, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I was just going to say, don't be put off by too many people if that's your only choice. And the other thing is, if you're doing a day trip, just check, because a lot of those don't include the price of the entry, right? Because
I didn't know that.
No, you've got to buy the ticket because sometimes it's €10, sometimes it's €23, sometimes it's €40. So they say everything's included, but not the entrance price. So just check the fine print if you're doing one of those day trips. That's all. Yeah, so where we stayed, Fenomen Plitvice Resort is only quite a new resort, and it's got like little Swiss chalet cabins, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think there was like 8 of those.
Yeah, and I think a maximum of 44 people, I think.
Yeah, okay.
And it had a restaurant,
Yeah.
and I remember I had the lamb chops.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, they were spectacular. They were beautiful. So the food was excellent.
The staff were really helpful, and that's the other thing. Like, we're giving all this information now, but we got a lot of information, and they print out maps and that for you, because everyone is a little bit confused about where to go and what to do. And she was so helpful, and they have all the information because they deal with this. People going to Plitvice Lakes all the time, don't they?
Yeah.
And they there was a children's area with trampolines and stuff, and there was like a football field as well. They're certainly making it family friendly there. Now, it's something else we didn't do, but maybe if we stayed another day, we would have. There is a really popular zip line just up from Plitvice National Lake, and you can do some kayaking and stuff that you can do in that area because of all the water and stuff. A lot of people do go and have like a few days there, and once you've seen the lakes, there's all these other sort of adventure activities you can do. Maybe next time.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful part of the world.
It is absolutely magnificent.
What was it like that couple of weeks? Because we did Lake Bled as well in that time, and Vintner Gorge, and like it was just
or even like the
caves
and things that we did in Slovenia as well.
Yeah, it was just wow after wow after wow. But I think Plitvice Lakes, I think it was the biggest wow.
Yeah, we certainly loved it. So I hope you found this helpful. And as I said, please go and check out Beach Travel Wine, episode 111. You can see the link to it in the show notes on the player you're listening on now. I'm going to put a link, as I said, to the official website where you can buy your tickets. Also, if you want to do a day trip, I'll put a link to the one I'd recommend. And also the accommodation that we stayed at, if you want to have a look at that, or if you're thinking of going and want somewhere a bit sort of special to stay, I'd certainly recommend that. And if you want to know where that secret little spot is for the best
viewpoint,
that
was worth staying where we stayed for that.
Well, anyway, I've shared the photo, but not the exact location. You'll have to ask me. Secret, it won't be secret anymore, will it?
No.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about these beautiful, gorgeous Plitvice Lakes in Rastoki?
The biggest surprise for me was Rastoki. I just thought it was like fairy.
Well, we had no idea what it was.
It was like being in a fairy tale. It was just unbelievable.
And that's day one, and then the secret spot, and then this day two are at Plitvice Lakes. I mean, we've done so many amazing things, but this will be up there on it as a memory for a long time.
As Leanne said, we jagged the weather, so
all right.
It was beautiful.
So, was there a favourite place to have a glass of wine?
I would have loved to have had a glass of wine at that secret spot.
Oh, yeah, that would have been nice.
Overlooking that picture-perfect Valeki Slap.
Yep, the waterfall.
But, other than that, I think a nice red while I had my beautiful lamb cutlets.
Well, I'm going to go with the coffee that we had at the end, after the walk, and just remembering the views and just taking in that. I was sad it was over. To be honest, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this glorious trip that we went on, and hopefully we've been helpful. If you've got any questions, send us a message on Instagram, Beach Travel Wine. Happy to help. I'm in there. I'm getting emails all the time. Leanne at beachtravelwine.com, answering questions about any of the places we've been, anywhere we've stayed. Every day I'm getting messages, and happy to help anybody with any questions. Or if you've got anything you want to tell us about, that'd be great too. So, and we will see you next week on the Beach Travel Wine podcast. So it's adios from me.
And it's adios from her.